So hello and welcome to this video on the Livestock Electronics Maze. Let's check out what's to come before we get into it. So Maze takes 4 inputs and routes them through level control or even inverted level control, and you can mix these inputs to 4 outputs. So let's say we have 4 inputs that are, say, LFOs to 4 different destinations. Here we're on the save mode, this is the routing mode, and we just toggle between and it saves every time we press that button. So I could go to any one of these states, and these presets that we save or states are addressed by this select input in various ways. We'll look at that in a second. So say I want to route something. It's as simple as saying, say, input 1, 2, 3 and 4 to outputs 1, 2, 3 and 4 and turning their level up. I hit save. So this will be like a simple pass through. If I want to invert something, let's say input 2 to output 2 on this grid, we simply go the other way, and pressing the encoder speeds up that control. Again, we hit save. We've got our routing set up. Say we want to mix multiple inputs on output 3. Now we can go in, say invert that one, add some level there. These will all mix down to that third output. And every time we press this, it's saving, so that's a saved state. Let's set up another one just quickly, and we can select multiple at once, control them, save, let's say invert some, save, or go in and one by one set up custom level controls, and we have a different state there. So each time we go in, we're saving and creating states or presets that this works within. And there's up to 16, but there's multiple banks. So you can have multiple performances set up for different systems and different cases and move the module around. You can expand it. There's also a select input to move between these states. And we can also mute. So if at any point, whatever the module is doing, you want to mute this, you can mute certain parts of that routing and either unmute them manually or hit the encoder to bring them back in. It's very performative in that respect. Holding the button takes us into the settings menu. We can see that this will go between different banks. But we can also address what this select input does from a continuous CV, where it will take a voltage and use that to address which state or preset you use. It could be triggered behavior that will trigger and step through them, much like a sequential switch over the state of the whole thing. We can randomly move between them with a trigger. And you can also put inverted triggers in there. Some nice tricks in the manual for playing around with these modes. There's a Euclidean mode, which will use a Euclidean formula to move between the patterns based on Euclidean patterns, which becomes really musical and interesting as well. And we can also fade and use a voltage to fade between states, which is really powerful because it's not fading between inputs like a crossfader. It's fading between 16 shifting routings and inversions and level controls and mixes to those 4 outputs. It's really powerful stuff. There's more covered in the manual, but that's as far as we're going to dive in for now, and we're going to get into some patches. So each patch in this video is going to demo multiple functions on Maze, and this first patch is 4 LFOs in, 4 mixes of these LFOs out to control VCAs on the MER next to it, controlling a couple of oscillators and some filtered versions. Let's just listen to the sound. It is in stereo, so grab some headphones or some decent speakers, and we'll just listen for a second. So I'm just going to mute these out on my mixer so you can hear each of the 4 parts. There is a lot of effects, but that's the first part. second part, third, and fourth. And right to show you at the start with this routing, we can go to the mute screen. And mute things out. We can also cancel out all of the mutes and remove them with a click of the encoder. So we can really playably, performably bring in parts of this routing and then cancel it out. So if we want to change anything, we can do that all together, routing multiple things and controlling their level. It saves every time we hit the main button. But let's go up and set something up new entirely so you can fully understand what's going on in this patch. So there's already some routing there. Let's go to another patch. So this is entirely empty. And we'll route the first input to the first out, the second input to the second out, third to third, and fourth to fourth. Keep it really simple. So turning these routings on, I can turn them up. Super simple. And when I hit that button, this is saved. I can go back in and invert these. And with each move, I just want to make sure that I hit save. It just saves what I've just done. But let's say I want to mix some of these together. So we've created a custom routing there. And we can mix these out, simply inputs to outputs on that grid, on the maze. Now if I hold the function button, this takes us into the settings menu, and this LED shows us what this sequence input is going to do. It can now fade, it can be a continuous control, or we can trigger between the different saved presets. And I want to trigger between them. And you can see this now starts to cycle between these presets. Now the encoder will set how long this pattern is. I can set that to 3 because that's where my saved states are. But clicking the encoder will change the start position. And that's the trigger mode for the select input. So in this patch, we're going to look at distributing trigger rhythms or gate rhythms for different parts of my drum setup, different percussion sounds. Now there's a kick and a clap and lots of compression and some noise and effects in the background. Here's the kind of bass sound that's got nothing to do with Maze. Now going into the save mode, these are all our different presets as we've already seen. The first one is empty, and I'll show you what this first input does across the 4 different sounds. So first input to the first output, I have a hi-hat sound. I can send that same rhythm to the second output, to my rim shot, to my closed hi-hat, and to a kind of muted snare without the noise element. So we can create these custom routings of these 4 different gate or trigger inputs to trigger these 4 different sounds. Now I'm going to set up 4 different states for this. So again, save. Let's go into this one and just route them through kind of as they were. So once we're on this save or preset mode, I can now flick between these different rhythms. I'm just going to keep doing this, creating different routines. So now I've got 8 patterns. And remember, hitting that little switch, we can go in and mute these. And hit the encoder. But holding the function button into settings, I'm going to go through to the continuous control. You can see continuous scroll there, which means a continuous voltage into this select input will be used to address these different presets. So I can use a sequence to move between these patterns in a very specific order because they're not just triggered. I can use this continuous voltage. So again, just to recap, this is 8 different patterns that I've saved. The continuous mode for the select input, which we get to in the settings, we flick through. Until we get to continuous. So a continuous voltage can address these steps. And if I just go back to that routing mode, we can see all these patterns change. So in this patch, we're going to use a single accent input and route that to 3 different destinations, which are triggering an envelope that opens the filter further on the first one, adding some noise, opening up a VCA, so some noise can come through into this patch, and also further opening a reverb. So let's set up a patch first so you can hear what's going on. The patch is playing in the background. There is a bit of noise and reverb already. So going into this first pattern, currently empty. This routes this accent input, well, out to the scope first, but to trigger another envelope, further opening my filter. This lets some noise through. If I open the filter manually, we can hear that noise much more clearly. And this one is opening and closing the dry wet on the reverb. So just as a nice little performable way to reroute an accent pattern around a patch, let's turn all 3 on, save it, and then going back to the save mode, the presets, I've got different routings. I can just manually play with live, and of course we can use that select input as we are doing in other patches in this video to trigger between these, to use a continuous CV to address them, to fade and morph between. We're going to do some more of that in the other patches. So So building on this idea of distributing a single input around the 4 outputs, I've turned Maze into a chord machine and coupled it up with the ADAT quantizer to do so. So there's one single offset from this Analog module coming into the input, and then each of these 4 saved states or presets are sending varying amounts of this voltage, because you can scale them all as you've seen. We could even invert it if we wish, out of these 4 outs into the 4 channels of the quantizer, and then these feed 4 separate oscillators. And there's some effects and a kick drum in the background. Now if I remove the trigger, and we go into this state, we can see that we can change the volume. Let me move my arm around here. Lay more of that voltage through, save it, do that 4 times over, gives us the chord. Let's do it on, say, this note. We have a new chord. And I'm using the select setting that is triggered, which is the yellow one. Triggered. Using a trigger to move through the pattern. So in this patch, we're going to set up a sequence, but it's not going to be basic in that we're taking one offset voltage that's going to control pitch, high pass filtering, bit of finger counting there, pitch, high pass filtering, reverb amount, and then we've got an envelope on this input 4 that we can route to the low pass filter and vary the depths of filtering, the kind of mod depth modulation through Maze. So we're going to go through and set this up. There's nothing currently set on any of these preset states. So I'm first going to set input 4 to output 4 and turn that up full. That's just routing the envelope to the filter. Now the first input, this voltage, I want to route out of 1, which feeds this quantizer. The second is my high pass filtering. So I can change the high passing by using this voltage per step to feed the high pass. And then I've got reverb amount on the third in there. So this is going to be like a single note per state with independent low pass filter modulation depths, a stepped voltage out to the high pass filtering, a stepped voltage into the quantizer, and a stepped amount of reverb that's going to be controlling its spring reverb from that stepped voltage. So let's set up a sequence. So now I've got 16 different states for the depth of modulation over the low pass, the pitch, the reverb amount, and the high pass filter cutoff. Plugging in a trigger. From one offset voltage in and the envelope in to adjust its depth, we've now got 4 outputs, creating a more interesting dynamic sequence. Now going into the settings, let's have a look at the Euclidean patterns. And with the encoder and clicking the encoder, we can start to change the patterns. So we've got Euclidean based patterns moving through this sequence. You can also send in a negative trigger and start to play around with this very differently as well. Let's try the random mode. So going into settings again. There's random. So this will now randomly move with each trigger. So for this final patch, we're taking 4 audio inputs and fading between them to the single output. Now I've got 4 presets saved, where the first input routes to the output on the first, the second input to output 1, then the third input to output 1, and the fourth input to output 1. And this is what feeds out into data so we can see it, and it's coming into my reverb and into the mixer. Now I'm in the fade mode for this select input, and it's going to use this voltage from the joystick to fade between states. Now this isn't actually cross-fading between the inputs, it's fading between the different states that we set and save on Maze. So we could create a complex 16-way routing and then create another one and fade between them. It's adjusting all the VCAs and inversion and level control and the different routings between the preset states. But it's nice and simple here. I've set it up just to fade 4 ins to 1 out. So hopefully you can see it on screen. It's a little bit hard to film these LED buttons with the lights on, but here we go. You can see in here that it's a crossfade between these states. It's not a hard switching on and off or triggered behavior. We have this PWM wave, triangle, sine wave sequence, and filtered saw wave. Now going back out to this save mode, we'll see this move across. And this is just a really simple patch to demonstrate the fading. As I said, you could have complex 16 parts saved. The fading, like the other select driven functions, is controlled by the encoder, which lets us set the range of that select input. And holding the button to get into settings, we can see when this is blue, we're in fade mode. So that's it for this video on Maze, a look at some of those select modes, various inputs, various patch ideas, a fantastic signal routing, VCA level controlling, attenuverting, inverting way to control signals and presets and sequencing in a Eurorack system. There's multiple banks. You could go out and play live with this and set on multiple states, perform with the pads, use continuous CV, crossfade between states, trigger between states, randomize between states with 4 ins and 4 outs routed around your system. These are expandable if you want 2 or even up to 4 of these connected, and that's shown in the manual. Go to livestockelectronics.com to check out more about the module. Cheers for watching. Support the work I do on patreon.com/DivKid. Have a good day.